Hi, I'm Jeff McLean, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community, where we spend so much of our time advising entrepreneurs, founders, and executives. We have the depth and the resources, the experience to work with so many here in the community, and we're grateful for the chance to show our support for what's happening here in the Silicon Slopes area. So thanks for coming to today's event. Feel free as you watch today to find me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and we look forward to starting a conversation with you.
Welcome to Silicon Slopes Live. Today we're joined by Rick Farnell, who's the CEO of Protegrity. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We've got a Christmas tree behind us now. 'Tis the season. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Had a great Thanksgiving, although it was quite contained from normal, kind of in our pod.
Yep.
Yes, thanks.
All about pods. So let's jump in real quick and give the listeners a primer of what Protegrity is.
Sure. So Protegrity is a data security software company that specializes in providing solutions to large enterprises to protect their data and to ultimately allow that protected data to be utilized downstream in analytic workloads.
So a lot of protection of data, and this isn't a upstart, right? This company's got some years on their bones.
Yeah, so although I'm just a year into my tenure, taking over as CEO in the transformation, we'll share a little bit about that. Protegrity is a 15-year-old company that has been around and has seen kind of a lot of the paradigm shifts, landed on the internet era and then into the services-oriented architecture, and now as we start to see the hybrid cloud and cloud area and artificial intelligence, our technology is highly relevant.
Yeah. So you've got a diverse background in both working as an executive and also doing your own startup. So why don't you just run down memory road and then circle back on how you ended up here?
Sure. So my career started actually in the internet era back in the mid-1990s. I was fortunate enough to work for kind of an incubator out of MIT and the Harvard campuses, and had a chance to build a consulting company to help enterprises back then utilize this new thing called the internet to build transactional systems. It was a company called Seabridge Internet Solutions, or short for Cambridge. We had a phenomenal run there. I led a lot of our programs and projects, spent some time across Europe and Asia, so I had a really great backbone into learning about how the world works, how businesses operate, and how to incorporate new technology into the fabric. And that really kind of went on from there. So we took Seabridge public in 1999. We were later acquired in 2002. I then moved on to a software company. We were doing integration software. It's a company called CBeyond, and had some wonderful partnerships with the big global systems integrators. We were acquired by a company called Sun Microsystems. And at Sun, we joined at a time when Sun really wanted to do a lot more in the software business, and it was an amazing hardware company. So I landed on the software side, and that was right at the time a couple of colleagues of mine had joined this new company called Amazon Web Services. I was on the software side at Sun, and we decided to build a partnership between Sun Software and Amazon where we could sell our software on this new cloud thing. That was really successful. I went on to acquire, I was part of a team that helped acquire a company called MySQL. It's an open source database, highly relevant in the open source world. And right after that happened, Oracle then bought Sun. At that time, myself and a whole bunch of colleagues got together that had worked together a number of times, and with cloud and machine learning and analytics, we started a company called Think Big Analytics. So I was co-founder of that company. We're headquartered in Silicon Valley, but decided to have a majority of our operations here in Salt Lake. That was back in 2010. And that journey really led me to Protegrity, because from 2010 to 2016, through the acquisition of Teradata Corporation, Teradata acquired Think Big, we kind of saw firsthand what enterprises in every single industry and from all over the world were trying to do with data and trying to build machine learning capabilities or artificial intelligence capabilities. And a big piece of the problem wasn't necessarily the tech, it was process. It was getting access to data to turn more algorithms and turn more machine learning models into action. And So I kind of had a wonderful journey at Teradata. I took a little bit of time off. Cybersecurity as a whole was really, really hot. There was a lot of VC investment. There's a lot of new startups in it. And I got introduced to Protegrity that was in the data security part of cybersecurity. And just one thing really led to another. And looking at my journey from ThinkBig Analytics all the way to Teradata, Protegrity really represents an unbelievable piece in the architecture to allow companies to get much more out of their data.
Yeah, very cool journey. So if when you started your career in the mid-late 90s, it was a Model T, what would you and your industry be driving today?
I think we're flying. I don't think we're driving anymore. I think we're actually in, hovercrafts and flying. I don't know if you can quite compare, although we had demos back in the 1990s of using these little orbs that, could show you, on one side and you could talk to another person. Really, the infrastructure wasn't really there. So it's taken 20, 30 years for us to get the infrastructure and bandwidth all over the world in order to start realizing some of these smart capabilities. But we are there front and center. And when I have conversations with people in the marketplace and even around, my kitchen table, talking to my mom who's in her 80s, when I ask her, hey, Mom, do you think that companies are going to use more math in the future or less? It's more. And this world of AI and machine learning is here, and it is not just for online retail and for, displaying, interesting pictures when you show up on a website or playing music that matches your preference. Artificial intelligence is reshaping every single industry that we can think of.
Yeah. So cybersecurity, data protection, all of those, right? For the layman, it gets a little bit confusing on what those are, and it seems like there's a woven tapestry of companies like yours and others, that there's a lot of partnerships and stuff. So obviously there's a lot of bad actors in the world that enables and permits you guys to counter them. But how does it all work with these partnerships? How do you guys partner with some of your partners? What's the process like there?
Sure. It's an ecosystem, and I think it's an important ecosystem that stands behind the largest banks in the world, the largest retailers in the world, largest telecommunications companies, who, by the way, are the companies that have our most private information. Our social security numbers, our addresses, our first names, like that information. So the ecosystem within not just cybersecurity, but all of the other platforms and cloud players and database vendors and dashboard vendors have to really work together. And I think that's probably the most exciting piece of what I think about Protegrity, is that we feel that we are such an important ingredient in the future of analytics that partnering with the cloud players like Amazon and Google and Microsoft Azure, but also to the players like the Snowflakes and the Teradatas and the IBMs and the Oracles, the big players that are out there. Our world is really an ecosystem. And in order for us to provide a wonderful protection service to our biggest customers, we have to work really well in that ecosystem. So, the hybrid cloud world that we hear about all the time, I think that's a really good example of how we have to play, not just with, a Fortune 5 bank's data centers here in the Americas, but also with their strategies to work on Amazon and Azure and, maintain that single pane of glass data security policy between all three platforms.
All right. So if you watch the Masters, IBM's been a long sponsor there, and they talk about the hybrid cloud and stuff. But it appears that there's a lot of mutual work together and a lot of layers when it comes to data and cybersecurity. What role does Protegrity play in that ecosystem?
Sure. So I think if you were looking at it as maybe the bad actors, I'll take that thread. If you look at bad actors trying to get access to data, that's where the cybersecurity world has many layers. There are numerous providers at the firewall level, at the network level, at the threat detection, threat mitigation, surface area reduction, trying to stop people from getting in. Then there's an entirely other ecosystem of, if people are in, what can they actually see? And that's where you start looking at, data protection at rest, in motion, and in use. And protecting data while it's sitting still is fairly standard, but protecting it in a way in which, when it's still, when it's moving, and when it's being used, whether on a cloud platform or in an on-premise application or in a machine learning algorithm, if it's the same exact protection policy, that's really difficult. And I think that's what Protegrity provides, is that commonality across all of those use cases.
Very interesting. So what types of companies would use you guys as a service? At what level are they able to use you guys?
Sure. So I think historically, the company really focused on the chief information security officers and the IT organization that had a mandate from the board to add certain levels of protection and encryption and tokenization and make sure that their most sensitive information is protected. And certainly in highly regulated industries like financial services, like healthcare, that have massive regulations around data and data use and where data can go, even from country jurisdictions. That's where we've seen historically a lot of our customer base. But kind of with our transformation and rebrand, so since I've been on board, I've really taken it and instead of just being relevant to the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, to make sure that he can sleep at night knowing that his data is completely protected, even if bad actors do get in. We want to be highly relevant to kind of let's call it the business side of our customers, the chief analytics officers, the chief AI officers, the chief data officers, the chief revenue officers. So it's those functions within banks, healthcare companies, telcos, retail organizations that are really tasked with using more mathematics to get the most out of their business, to provide an optimum service to a customer, to recommend a certain product and or service, to optimize a supply chain if that's going to move the needle on making a better product. So I think our journey has been for years really talking to the technical side of our customers. But now, once kind of people realize that when you have all of your data fully protected, and you have that single pane of glass so that no one in the organization, especially your machine learning and your artificial intelligence developers, are never going to have access to data in the clear that they shouldn't, they can kind of innovate much faster. So that's why we talk about unleashing the power of secure data. And that is not a, hey, we'll protect your data from bad guys. That is a completely different brand message that we're going with our rebrand.
So with that, your data scientists, the smart folks, they would be able to be faster and more nimble, right? They wouldn't have to wait for somebody to sign off on, yeah, you can have that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's that use case where through my Think Big Analytics journey, very often when we were trying to come up with new recommendation engines, new pricing strategies, new next best offers, our data science teams with our customers would want to use more and more data to try to enrich their models. And when we raised our hands and said, hey, we'd like to access this data, typically these large enterprises and even smaller enterprises would say, hold on, wait a minute, we need to go through the process to make sure that there's no information in there that shouldn't be used, that shouldn't be, in the US versus other countries. And it was that process lag that really impeded our innovation. It wasn't the ability for us to do more math. It was the inability for us to be timely with getting new data to put into the models to do the new math. And I think it's that exact kind of paradigm shift that we're trying to get out to the marketplace and help analytics officers and AI officers understand that if they do put a robust data security solution in place, they can totally free up and increase that pattern of innovation with their data science teams.
Yeah, it's always good to have less roadblocks. Over your career, what's been one of the cooler innovations in security that, the white hat guys have come up with?
So I think for probably 40 years, there's been a notion of fully homomorphic encryption. And it has been a dream. It's typically been in governments and educational communities, and the technology hasn't been there, the speed to kind of power through. And the premise is that you can completely encrypt your data, but it still holds its mathematical integrity for your algorithms. So that holy grail of fully homomorphic encryption, we are kind of back to the, we used to drive a Model T, and now I think we're, in space shuttles. We are at the point now where we actually have a level of compute and the capabilities to even think about homomorphic encryption. So at Protegrity, we can't claim that we're fully homomorphic. We feel that we're partially homomorphic, where we do allow for some consistency and understanding who a certain person is. If you decipher your first name and last name, but keep it consistent no matter where it journeys in the organization, you can still have that analytical consistency. So I think probably the coolest thing that we're kind of witnessing as a society right now is a 30-year-old, almost 40-year-old concept of that fully homomorphic encryption that's almost becoming reality.
A lot of big words there and cool jargon. So with Protegrity, you guys are obviously, your value add is we're smart, we've got processes, we've got products. How do you, as Protegrity, stay ahead? And what is your product cycle? What's the horizon look like for you guys?
So I think tried and true, the product that we have works and scales. We couldn't support, the world's biggest banks, the world's biggest financial institutions, the world's biggest healthcare, and the world's biggest government agencies if our software didn't scale. So as I think that's a benefit of not being a 1-year-old startup or a 2-year-old startup. We have a history of supporting some of the biggest companies in the world with data protection. So I think the fact that the skeletal structure and the underpinnings of the company are that sound, it's allowing us to really innovate. So we just released version 8 of our platform just a couple of months ago. That version allows us to be much more nimble and flexible in the world of hybrid cloud. So there's something called containers and services-based architectures, probably going a little bit too technical, but they're very important for a software company like us in order to allow our customers to have choice. So if they want to choose to deploy it on-premise or choose to deploy it in a cloud or choose to have a hybrid deployment, they can. And I think it's innovations like that we brought to the table as a new leadership team this past year that has really taken a wonderful, wonderful technology and product set and made it relevant for the future of where the world is heading.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go into a little bit detail of how you ended up here just from the last year, right? You had your choice of what to do, and you got connected with the Protegrity investors and the board. So what was that process like for you as you evaluated this opportunity in your life and knowing what kind of horses you had in the stable, and ultimately what made you decide to join, and how did you kind of bring your team along?
Yeah, I got to say this past year, pandemic included, has been really the most amazing year of my professional career, kind of having a chance to lead Protegrity, to bring a lot of team members that have worked with me either 1, 2, or 3 times in the past to an opportunity to scale an organization around the world that, if you really look at our value prop, we are protecting the, personal identifiable information of billions of human beings. That's what we do through our customers. So that kind of charge is really powerful. And, last summer, kind of getting engaged with, with the board and with the investor of Protegrity. And I was familiar with Protegrity because they were partners with Teradata, so where ThinkBig Analytics landed through acquisition. And I knew I wanted to do something in the cybersecurity world and certainly in the AI world, kind of continuing with at least my career progression. So the opportunity to work with the board, who was highly engaging to me and really love some of the ideas. We first put this idea of secure AI. We talked about like, what is that? And even at this point, no one really knows that, but we're trying to put that out there as a brand, like ushering in the era of secure AI. And when the market starts talking about algorithmic trust and non-biased in their, non-bias in their artificial intelligence models, the secure AI era is coming, and we feel that at Protegrity we can be a significant part of that. So it was really a wonderful opportunity for me last summer to put a lot of my past kind of on display of what I've learned through working at consulting companies and product companies and consulting companies, big companies, small companies, and I'm really happy that we kind of took this journey, because I tell you, this year has been absolutely amazing. And part of that, I think, for Silicon Slopes, I've been here 20 years in state, and we relocated the headquarters of Protegrity from Connecticut to Salt Lake City. We opened up our office, February 10th. Everyone can do, the date math on that one of when kind of COVID started to hit. So, we're real excited to be here. I'm a big fan of Utah. The lifestyle, the access, having a major international airport just minutes away is absolutely amazing. So, it was a wonderful summer last summer, and couldn't be happier to be here.
Yeah, well, very cool. All right, so you've got your clients and your logos and the ones that you support. Let's say there's a net new client, and they're big and it's a cool logo. What's your sales process like as a company, and then do you get involved in securing those deals?
So certainly I try to be involved in as many customer relationships as possible. One of the things that we did this past year is to institute an executive sponsorship program. So all of myself and my direct reports who are on the go-to-market side, we all have accounts all over the world where once a month we talk to our customers. What are we doing well? What should we fix? What can we do different? We also started a monthly customer digital roundtable in kind of the COVID world. So now we're inviting our customers in, because one thing that we heard was, hey, we'd like to talk to our peers over at Bank X or healthcare company Z in order to figure out what they're doing and how we can share information. So I certainly have been involved in a lot of our relationships. I'm a big fan of thinking that people buy from people, and I think that culture needs to come through. And I think the other thing that we changed for us as an organization is we instituted a customer success organization. We changed all of our comp plans that existed before, so that it wasn't just about getting new customers, it was about keeping our customers and making them wildly happy. So I absolutely get engaged. I was pretty active. There's a very large bank here in the state of Utah that is a new customer of Protegrity, so I actually personally got involved in that one. It's here in state, and a wonderful brand to work with, and I'm the executive sponsor on that as well as many of our other customers.
Very cool. Staying engaged. All right, so you've been able to be a startup founder. You know what that's like, and you run a big company now. 2 different hats, 2 different skill sets. What are some things from both sides that are common?
So I believe that even within a large company, you can still have a vibrant entrepreneurial culture, and whether you call it an entrepreneurial spirit or I think that regardless of how big you get, and I've worked at Sun Microsystems, I held a leadership position. I ran a global organization, a Teradata Corporation. I've been at very, very large companies in addition to Protegrity, and what separates kind of a company, whether they're small or big, is kind of how the culture rallies around the things that are important to them. So I've tried my best to instill almost a startup mentality, but with a lot of the wonderful lessons of a large company. And I think one thing that we're doing well this year, and this is kind of a benefit of COVID, so we can kind of chalk this up, is we've been able to put a lot more infrastructure and an operational capability into the business that didn't exist before in a much faster time frame, because I'm not on a plane every single day and in different time zones and can't get a time with our team together. So I think the fact that we've all been grounded and in total control of our diaries, we've been able to really fast track a lot of the investments that when we first put the plan together last summer, we were looking at late 2021 for some of the things that we've actually already implemented. So we've kind of taken a lot of the benefit of what needs to happen in order to scale as a global company and to continue to scale and turn our growth rates into steep climbs. And the only way that you can do that is if you have infrastructure and processes to support that.
Yeah. So when a new governor or new president's elected, they have like a 100-day plan. How does your mind work as far as visualizing what you would like to do? Do you like to have the rigid plans for a certain amount of days? Are you very flexible? How did you go about doing it?
Yeah, so we had a 100-day plan, and we put forward, kind of I think with a little bit of a consulting approach. I really wanted to listen and hear, and I wanted to hear from employees. I wanted to hear from our customers. I wanted to hear from our partners, and not rush to change anything too quickly. There were some things kind of on the product side that we knew that we had to move forward with. V8, for instance, as I mentioned, that was kind of on the horizon for a while, so we could kind of execute kind of a whole bunch of stuff in 100 days there. On the sales side, we kind of changed around our process. We put in a little bit more rigor. So I think the first 100 days is pretty good. We try to have company-wide metrics that everyone is measured against. So we have kind of financial targets, and then we have kind of customer love that kind of cascades into every organization, so that when they're doing their job, if they have a decision to make, should I do this or should I do that, they can have a decision framework. Well, does it impact customer love? Does it impact this? And they can make that decision. So I think those are some of the things that a big company, that experience brings. I can bring that to Protegrity and implement that type of stuff holistically.
Exactly. So for your 2021, how do you and your executive team kind of forecast a non-pandemic year?
Great question. One thing that we did is we changed our software access model. So historically, we've been a very high touch. We would engage with the customer in order to sell and then deliver the software. With our V8 release, it's allowing us to package different solutions of our software, and we're going to be selling them on Azure and AWS and Google Compute Engine. We have a wonderful partnership with Snowflake. That's one of the hottest IPOs I think ever in the tech industry. So we have a phenomenal partnership with them and the Redshift team at Amazon. So I think for 2021, we are opening up new ways in which customers can access our software and not have to kind of contact one of our sales reps, and then either our inside sales team or our outside sales team can contact the customer and help them kind of do more. So that's a big change for us in 21. It's you talk about ways in which your business can operate while you're sleeping and then still operate. And those are some of the things that we're trying to put in place, is allow a totally different market of human beings around the world to get access to our software, to start using it see some of the value, and then we can engage with them to do more.
Yeah. So the buck stops with you ultimately, but then you also have to interact with a board of directors, correct? How is that for you? You've obviously seen a lot of different boards and been a part of different boards over the years. What's kind of the best board relationship that you could envision?
Well, I think like any relationship, one in which both, let's call it management and board, are aligned on common goals. I think that's really important. You never want to have kind of a management vision that is kind of off with what the board's vision is. So I think that's kind of number one. And I think we've done a really good job because of last summer's work, kind of aligning on where this company could go over, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I think that vision alignment is critical. And then it turns into really transparency. And we have a monthly process that we run as a leadership team. That's kind of another benefit of being at a big company, publicly traded company. So every single month, even though we're not publicly traded, every single month we lock, our financials, all the leadership team, updates dashboards on how they did that month compared to the targets. We roll that up. We have a board meeting. We go through everything. We talk about what we're seeing in the marketplace. So I think that rhythm and cadence has been really, really good for me in the past. And I brought that to Protegrity, and we have a wonderful relationship with our board now and total alignment.
Very cool. So if you can tell a board member's reading your report for the first time in that meeting, do you let them know, or do you just let it slide?
Wait, say it again?
So if a board member, you share all the data and here's the update, here's where we've improved, here's our plans, and you can tell they're reading it for the first time. Do you just let it slide, or do you ask them a tough question to seem like a nice guy?
I try not to ask the tough questions. I try to put myself kind of similar to what I say to every single new hire that comes into Protegrity that I talk to and have a Zoom with. I kind of look at my job as I work for them. I don't see it as they work for me. And if there's something that I can do to make their job better, to allow them to hit their career goals, allow them to to deliver more to a customer, be more productive, that's my job. And I take that same lens with the board. I work for them, and I literally do work for them, right? So I actually do report to them. And in my style with the board, I try to have kind of my leadership team involved as much as possible, but not too much where they need to really operate the business, and we're talking about more longer term, 2-year directional type things. So I guess that's just my style. Is I always put myself in a position where I feel like I work for whoever I'm talking to, and try to make that experience as great as possible.
So have you guys grown through acquisitions at all over the years?
Over the years, yes. So Protegrity has made a few acquisitions in the past, and certainly that's an opportunity for us moving forward. That is absolutely a growth strategy. There's everything from raising more capital to going public to acquiring other companies to gain capabilities. So certainly an option for us.
Is that a part of the business you like?
Yeah, I've been involved on both sides. So I've kind of been at companies that I've either started, that have been acquired, or been at large companies where we've acquired other companies. And I've really enjoyed that process where kind of a 1 + 1 = 5, and if it doesn't, why you're doing the acquisition. And I've always been pretty vocal, at least in my role. I haven't been the deciding factor in a lot of those. I've been a participant, but I've always kind of held my microphone firm and turned up the volume if I didn't think something was going to pan out. So certainly M&A activity is totally part of any business. Yeah.
Boiling it down even to a smaller level, I'm sure you get accosted by young entrepreneurs and folks starting their second attempt at things. What's your favorite part of listening to pitches, whether it's an actual pitch or it's a quick elevator pitch? And what do you look for in these younger entrepreneurs?
Yeah, first of all, I wouldn't say it's just young, because I think I've certainly seen a number of people, either second careers, third careers, or later on in life, who just realized they had a passion for starting something. So, I think the young and entrepreneur don't necessarily always mix, but from an entrepreneurial perspective, one thing that I really appreciate is passion. If you are not, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as someone who's standing in front of, a venture community trying to, decide if they're going to invest money, or anyone, if you are not passionate about your idea or your business, you might as well not do the presentation. And then I think that's like my number one kind of advice for people is, and it's hard, right? Not a lot of people are, that energetic or whatnot. So try to figure out if there's ways in which you really can get really passionate about your idea.
Yep. If you don't have the passion, it usually doesn't work out. So we have to ask a few obligatory COVID questions. So you guys have a fancy office space that opened a month before COVID. But what are some of the tweaks and silver linings that you've implemented?
So one thing that in our Think Big analytics days, we kind of talked through potentially a 9-day, 2-week work week, and if we could make that happen as a cultural kind of benefit. And it was at a time when a lot of tech companies were going, at least in the U.S., were going to unlimited vacation, right? And then kind of the Teradata acquisition happened, and that wasn't going to work at a publicly traded company. But so during the early days of COVID, when we didn't really know how long we were going to be in, lockdown mode, kind of myself and our leadership team got together, and we created this program called Flexible Fridays. And what it is everyone in Protegrity globally. I mean, we have hundreds of people in India, Singapore, Australia, all over Europe, like all over the world. Everyone in the company, 2 weekends a month, takes off that Friday. Now, we're not shutting the company down, so we have to figure out how to make that work. And the only way that we could come up with is to not have internal meetings on Fridays, because that would kind of defeat the purpose. If Thursdays, 5 o'clock or whatever time it is, you shut down and you were about to have a long weekend, whether you're staying home with your family, traveling, driving somewhere, whatever, if you kind of felt like you had to be on a phone call at just 11 to 12 on Friday, that kind of defeats that mental purpose of checking out and investing in yourself or your family. So that Flexible Friday program has been amazing. And I still get pictures from people all over the company, on their Flexible Friday weekends where they've taken a long hike, or they've gone somewhere, or people have activated their golf memberships because they actually have time to golf now. So it's been a really, really wonderful silver lining, I guess I'd call it. And even when kind of we come back to normal, we plan to keep that as part of our culture. It has been such a lightning rod of kind of innovation, and but the people that are having their long weekends, yeah, they're getting benefit. But the people that are working that Friday, to not have internal meetings, like where you're bouncing back and forth from Zoom to Zoom and then conference call to conference call, and you can actually think about what you're doing in your business and make some progress, it's been amazing for us.
Yeah, very cool. So, crystal ball time. If you had to look back in a few years in your industry as a whole, or just your company if you'd like, what do you think will be one of the seismic shifts in the next couple of years as it relates to your industry?
I think that with kind of the secure AI era that we're kind of heading into, I think that we are going to see a complete explosion of mathematics and machine learning, artificial intelligence, call it any one of the three you want, or data science, because if you as a company are able to share data but not have any of the data identifiable to, an end customer or personal information or health information or whatnot, but allow that data to be useful for some of the best minds in the world that might not even work for you, I think that is going to totally change the whole artificial intelligence kind of impact on society.
Yeah, that would be pretty big. All right, well, so for people like me with like a 6th grade math equivalency, I probably won't ever end up at Protegrity, but for the future workforce, it sounds like there's a definitive skill set that you'll be hiring over the next 5-10 years. How do you guys kind of support that ecosystem to make sure you've got people?
I have this conversation with actually young college kids a lot, and college kids kind of talk about the tech industry, and they feel like they have to get a degree in computer science or algorithmic development or whatnot. And what I try to tell them is that, like any industry, the tech industry has human resource departments and sales organizations and services organizations and recruiting and marketing, right? There's all kinds of job opportunities, amazing job opportunities in the tech industry where you don't have to be a gifted programmer, engineer, programmer, or a mathematician. Now, having a math background and having a programming background, if you want to land somewhere, certainly the tech industry is amazing. But routinely throughout my career, and we have a whole team of we call them business development reps, where we typically hire people that don't have technology backgrounds and bring them into the organization to expose them to what the tech industry is, how to talk about Protegrity, how to engage with prospects who are interested in learning more about Protegrity. And then from that role, they can move into either sales or marketing or HR or, take programming classes and go into our R&D organization. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I try to encourage to college kids and to younger folks is you don't always have to be highly technical to have an amazing career in tech.
For sure. All right, this might be a dumb question. It'll probably be the last one. I apologize. So last 20, 25 years since the invention of the internet, what was the time frame where it was the least secure? Let's say you bought a toy from Toys R Us and you shared your credit card information, your address and name and stuff. What was the least safe time to do that?
So I'd probably have to say 2000, like right before the first, those of us that are old enough to remember the dot-com crash. I think that there was a lot of innovation early on, 96, 97, 98, 99, and then when the internet really became something that you turn on the Masters or you turn on the NFL and it was being advertised, companies that were, having technology related to the internet. So I think that 99, 2000 era, because everyone was just jumping in and doing things and doing transactions on the internet with not a lot of infrastructure and not a lot of capabilities on the back end.
All right, well, those days are gone and over with. Well, very cool. This has been very thought-provoking and informative, and we're glad you guys are here, and we appreciate your support over the years.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Silicon Slopes is a wonderful organization. We're certainly proud to be part of it now as Protegrity, and look forward to many more of these organizations, hopefully when we can get people back together in the room.
Absolutely.
And start engaging. So.
Cool. Well, thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Jeff McClain, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community where we spend so much of our time. My team and I advise so many tech entrepreneurs, executives, founders, to help them and their family better predict their financial future. And so we're grateful to be a part of the community, the event, in the area where we spend so much of our time. with the backing and resources of one of the largest wealth management firms in the nation. My team has the experience and resources that you typically only find in a San Francisco, a New York, a Palo Alto, but we're right here locally as the largest wealth management firm here in Utah. And so we'd love the opportunity to connect, to start a conversation. I know personally with my background as a tax and estate planning attorney, we advise and guide a lot of families, sometimes well in advance of any business transition, exit, whatever it may be, to help them meet their goals. And so as you watch today's event, as you have the chance to participate, reach out and connect to me on LinkedIn. Let's start a conversation about how we can help advise you and your family. So again, my name is Jeff McLean, MCCLEAN. Try to find me on LinkedIn, Wells Fargo Private Bank, and enjoy today's conversation and today's event, and hope you have a good time. Thanks for participating.